What's going on? So, just wanted to give a little bit of a comment to those people who'd like to get at least some sort of information out of this so-called stream that happened here on Primal Edge's channel, involving Sv3rige, Milk Jar, Frank Tufano, and Carnival. I think it's really, I don't know. I always get a headache when I watch these kind of things, and I can't watch these guys anymore without sharing my comments, because somehow I can't stop watching them at the same time. But it's really hard to watch them, how they present their arguments and stuff in a totally stupid manner, especially if they actually have the truth on their side. And it would be so easy to win the debate basically, but they simply don't do it. So I'm not gonna go into whether Frank is gay or stuff like that, because I think it's really unnecessary, especially you only basically have to look at the guy and you have your answer. I just want to get to the claims that have been made on diet and stuff like that. So there were a few things discussed during this debate. First of all, the take on salt, especially Argenis Wonderplanets' take on salt. Argenis Wonderplanets, the maker of the Primal Diet. The debate was, or the discussion was, whether eating salt is healthy or not. So, as some of you guys might or might not know, Argenis' take on salt is kind of, it's a bad thing. We shouldn't eat it. Now, the reason, or Frank Tufano's arguments there was, I don't know, only some people, detox salt from their brains, and then they get migraines. So it's only relevant for people who have migraines and who have a weakness there when it comes to salt. And he says that it can't be concluded from Argenis studies that salt is actually bad, or at least that it's only bad for people who have a, so to say, a predisposition to that thing, to salt. Now, what he overlooked here was actually why, or what's the main argument from Argenis, why salts in general, artificial salts, that is, are bad, and especially also this includes all the various mineral supplements that are out there. And this includes also table salt, the rock form of salt, that is not kind of chelated in organic compounds. And this is already the main point here. There's nothing wrong with juicing a bunch of celery and drinking the juice of that. The juice of celery juice contains quite a lot of sodium, actually. Now the question is, the phenomenon that we see here is that the sodium in celery juice is not bad, yet when we consume the same amount of sodium in the form of table salt that we just throw into a glass of water, for example, then it's actually bad. Now, why is that? Because seemingly both minerals are in solution, right? So they are dissolved. The sodium is separated from the chloride. These ions are floating around in there. Why should one be good, one be bad? The reason is simply that the sodium in the celery juice is chelated. That means it's accompanied by organic compounds, which happens to kind of, coat these minerals in the celery, right? Because celery also can only make use of salt when it coats it with several organic compounds. Now, of course, I can't tell you which ones these are. Maybe they are chelated in some sort of enzymes as enzymatic cofactors or stuff like that. Whatever purpose they have in that certain type of organism. We're looking at the plant here, so whatever it needs it for, basically. Now, when we look into animal flesh, for example, this contains sodium as well. As we know, sodium sodium chloride is part of the extracellular fluid. So, animal products contain salt, obviously, as well, sodium as well, to some degree. So why is the salt in raw animal products, for example, not bad when we consume it, compared to the salt in seawater, for example, or the salt that we find in salt mines, in the mountains, which is, of course, in fact, just another form of sea salt as well. But anyway, the reason for that is that it's simply hard to chelate, or it's effort from your body to chelate a non-chelated mineral if you take it into your body. It's very much more likely that it's gonna bring your body out of balance when it comes to mineral balance. Now, mineral balance itself is already a topic that is really, really deep and is hard to understand, really. But what's important here is that you have to chelate it. Otherwise, minerals are really rocks inside of your body and are, hard to deal with. You have to coat them with enzymes, you have to use them properly, and really that's the reason why Arjunus, for example, thinks that supplementing minerals in a artificial form is bad, because it's really just rocks that you ingest and it's only going to bring your body out of balance. That's the main argument why Arjunus doesn't want you to eat salt. And also he observed that salt in your blood is going to kill red blood cells, basically, because they are trying to somehow accustom to this rise in salt level. And by this, some of them burst. This is also something that he observed, apart from the whole migraine thing, where he observed that people who detoxed salt deposits out of their brain, get migraines. And these migraines actually are accompanied by a rise of salt in the bloodstream, which seemingly, indicated a detoxification process that sets in there. So this is actually Arjunus, take on salt, so to say, and all other mineral supplements as well, which are artificial. Salts are not bad as long as you get them in their raw, natural state. Whether it's a plant food like celery juice or an animal food like flesh. These salts are chelated, and of course there's not only table salt in there, there's a million of other, so many elements don't exist, but there's a lot of other salts there as well, and your body can utilize that stuff, this mineral cocktail, much better. So anyway, that's Arjunus' take on salt. The next thing that they discussed, or that they discussed very shortly at least, Arjunus' take on raw versus cooked foods. This thing with enzymes and bacteria and vitamins and stuff. So Frank Tufano said here that, Frank Tufano, he's all about the vitamins, right? The vitamin-rich foods, and it's really all about nutrient density, and you have the nutrient density in your diet, and everything else is secondary. So Arjunus' take on raw foods is actually enzymes and bacteria. The enzymes in raw food are still intact. The bacteria, which might be even more important, are still intact. Now, both gets destroyed to some degree when you cook food. I mean, when you really cook food to 100 degrees Celsius and higher, then you're actually completely destroying all enzymes and almost all bacteria. And this brings the enzymatic and bacterial balance of this food greatly out of balance. It's destroying it. So when you have this food sitting there, when you cook it and then you leave it sitting there, all kinds of crap can really grow on that stuff. And it's not really the bacteria's fault that when they feed on crap, they excrete also crap. They create certain toxins. And these toxins are, of course, what you're going to ingest. So this is actually possible to ruin food that way. When you pasteurize milk, for example, and you leave it there for 1 week and then drink it, you're going to have some serious troubles. If you're letting raw milk stand there for 1 week, it's just going to get sour. The bacteria in there proliferate, the lactobacillus proliferate, they use up the lactose, and they basically create lactic acid. And the milk really ferments. It doesn't really go bad, So this is the whole thing with raw foods in general. Raw foods, they can't really, at least raw animal foods, they tend to ferment because all the fermentation bacteria are already present in any raw animal foods. Whether that's the flesh of an animal when it gets slaughtered, the fermentation bacteria are already present, or it's the raw milk where it's the lactobacillus that's already present. So really, as long as you don't heat it and bring the bacterial balance out of balance, the bacterial flora, I should say, out of balance, you can't really spoil or ruin a food. And we haven't really even talked about enzymes and vitamins so far to see that raw foods in this regard are superior. When it comes to enzymes, Frank Tufano made a pretty good point here, but actually a point that, that proves that he himself is wrong. He mentioned 3 enzymes that are responsible for the breakdown of carbohydrates, for the breakdown of proteins, and for the breakdown of fats in raw meat. And this is very true. If you let raw meat sit in your fridge for like 1 month or even 2 months or even 6 months, it's gonna dry age. They call it dry aging. Now, what happens here when we dry age? Well, of course, all the carbohydrates get broken down, the proteins get broken down to some degree, and also the fats get broken down to some degree. What's at work here is the enzymes of this muscle tissue and, of course, the bacteria which already live in there. So this food is still alive, okay? It progresses, although the animal is dead. The parts of the animal are still alive. They are still full of living bacteria and enzymes which are at work here. Depending on how high the temperature is, on lower temperature, it's gonna it's gonna progress slower. On higher temperatures, it's gonna progress higher. But if it's getting too hot, they simply die off, and then you have the same problem again on a dead food. Strange stuff, really strange stuff can grow, and this is also the most common way on how you get food poisoning and stuff like that. You heat something and then you let it sit and then you eat it. It's gonna create problems. Now, again, the vitamins, yes, of course you lose some vitamins, but I suppose that you already gain availability of some vitamins if you cook stuff, But that's not really relevant here, because you lose so much digestibility by destroying all these enzymes and bacteria via cooking. It's probably not gonna matter if you have a shit ton of stomach acid that's working for you, because then in the end you're gonna dissolve everything that's in there, and you're basically only gonna suffer from vitamin loss. That's all that you really lose once you cook it from an atomic molecular point of view, But the reality is that most people don't have these strong stomachs. As we get older, we lose stomach acid, and it's going to be harder to break down cooked foods with time. So raw foods are going to increase in importance as our lifetime increases, so to say, as our digestive abilities decrease. Young people, they have strong stomach acids. They can really eat shit. They can eat whatever they want, and they will not suffer to a certain degree, So this is why young people can tolerate all sorts of diets, or even the vegan diet. They can break down this rice and stuff like that, the vegetables, the cooked vegetables. Although it's really, I think, not really what we should eat most of the time, they can break it down and live on it quite without any problems. But as we get older, again, our digestive abilities decrease, and we have to rely on these things, these enzymes, these bacteria, to do at least part of the work for us. And this is something that Arjuna realized during his work as well. And he concluded that it's because of the enzymes and the bacteria predominantly, They populate our gut, they break the food down, and we basically get the leftovers that they leave for us. And it's really a symbiotic relationship here, We give them a place to live, a warm, moist, nice host, and they provide us with some nutrients and stuff like that, so that we can thrive. And this is really an awesome thing when you actually think about it. Now, the third point, which they almost discussed, but yeah, they cut off here really quickly again, was Arjuna's take on allergies. Frank Tufano mentioned that it's dangerous advice to tell people that if they react in an allergic manner to raw milk, for example, to tell them that it's only detox and stuff like that, and they should, if they in fact should discontinue with simply drinking raw milk and accept that they are allergic to raw milk. My take on that is, well, first of all, let's discuss Arjuna's take on that briefly. He says that it's actually, if you are on a cooked food diet and your body is used to that stuff, used to storing toxins, used to getting toxins away, stored in the fatty tissue and stuff like that, switching all of a sudden to something like the raw primal diet, which is going to which is going to dilute a lot of toxins and, make them re-enter into the system and stuff like that. It's not gonna be without symptoms. You're gonna have these pussy, immune cells, these fatty immune cells escorting toxins out of your body. May it be through your skin, or may it be through the surface of your intestinal walls and stuff like that. It can be really everywhere. It can even be that you get some pains and stuff, and all of that suddenly, because your body has access to all of this raw fat all of a sudden, and it's going to utilize it for just these purposes, because this is actually one huge purpose of raw fat, to escort toxins or dilute toxins out of the body, literally. First of all, dilute them inside of your body, and then subsequently over time, getting rid of them through your skin, through your digestive linings, through your glands, all the tear ducts, the nasal glands, the ear glands and stuff like that, So this is Arjuna's take on that. And I would say one of his observations that kind of proves this is that literally all people who displayed some sort of allergy in the beginning of the primal diet improved dramatically as time progressed, as they got accustomed, so to say, to the diet. I think there was only one person that he mentioned in one of his books whose dairy allergy never seemed to cease, even after years on the primal diet, and at some point they decided that this person might have been too toxic internally, or that some sort of immune thing got destroyed here and they can't handle it, or stuff like that, But usually you should accustom to this kind of diet to a degree where you don't have any of these quote-unquote allergic symptoms anymore, which are really just your body trying to use all this raw cholesterol, this raw fat, to escort toxins out of your body that you might have accumulated so far. So that's Arjuna's take on allergies, and I can totally understand that. I've observed this on other people as well. People get allergies out of the nothing. People lose allergies out of the nothing. There isn't really any law to that. Allergies also depend greatly on your intestinal flora, on the health of your body in general. Allergies seem to come and go, and they are not a genetic permanent thing. They really are dependent on your lifestyle, really, and also on your geographical area, on your race. I can perfectly well understand if Asians have a higher susceptibility to dairy allergy than Europeans, for example, who lived on dairy for much longer than Asians who basically never lived on dairy. So much to say about Arjuna's take on allergies. So Frank, I don't know, man, do your research a bit better when it comes to this stuff. What's really hard it's really hard for me to watch these videos, because actually these the guys who are fanboys of Arjuna's Planets have really good arguments. They have good arguments. They actually have 99% of the truth on their side, but they somehow fail to argument it, or to form arguments in a way that this gets displayed to the audience, and in the end they just look stupid to 99% of the people. I mean, for people like me, who have been down this rabbit hole as well and explored the truth when it comes to this stuff as well, it's visible that they are actually right, but this is not for the majority of the people. For the majority of the people see this slick Frank Tufano guy who's looking good, who's playing the cool guy, and they just want to emulate him, and think that he's right on everything he's saying, because he seems so drawn to the facts, and he analyzes everything so rationally. Nature is fascinating. Nature is really real and fascinating. So, just because something seems, crazy out there in the beginning, if you actually dig a little bit into it, then you might find that it's actually not so out there. There's actually a logical reason for that. And the human body, just as well as other animal bodies, they are extremely complex, okay? I mean, just alone, this whole mineral thing, understanding mineral balance in the body, it's extremely complex, and you have to understand chelation as well and stuff like that, and how the body, gets rid of mineral imbalances and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, enough for this video. I just wanted to make a little bit of a comment on this this live stream there for people who want to actually get the points when it comes to the discussion about autogenous. But anyway, have a great one.